What's up, mutants? I'm back with a new review, and it's the first two episodes of X-Men 97. So, this was fun. Now, I, of course, need to maybe just personally bring up my feelings for the original show for context. And since there wasn't a YouTube back in the 90s, I really didn't express myself too much publicly about it. But X-Men, the animated series, and Batman, the animated series, were two very important shows, not just for comic book media and superhero cartoons, but for animation in general in the West. I think they did a lot during the 90s to advance storytelling and the maturity in what you could do with these shows. And I remember comic fans being split between these two shows. You were either a Batman fan or an X-Men fan, and I was more on the side of the Batman show because while I respected the X-Men cartoon more, not more than Batman, but while I respected the X-Men cartoon, I had a lot of issues with, first off, the animation. Fun fact, when the show premiered, the animation wasn't finished. So there were some huge gaps in the animation. Like there were things unfinished on the screen that they aired for the first time. You might be able to find maybe clips of these on YouTube, but they did go back and repair this. I could not believe the sloppiness on that first episode. And also the writing was very clunky and the acting was kind of samey and stiff. But I did respect what it was doing as far as going all in on the themes of X-Men, dealing with bigotry, racism, marginalized groups and what they go through the story of mutants. And I really love that. I love the soap opera feel to the show where it really did carry on much like a comic book. Its stories from week to week out, telling its story arcs. Really did love that. I wish it was just done better. Well, hey, come to the present with X-Men 97, and they kind of ironed out those problems, and I'm kind of a big fan of it. Let's see, the creators of this was, Bo DeMeo as a showrunner and head writer. We also had Ray Chase, Jennifer Hale, Allison Seeley Smith, Cal Dodd, J.P. Carlack, Lenore Zan, George Buza, and Holly Chow. And they brought back as many cast members as they could from the original show. And I keep thinking, what an interesting continuation this is, because we've seen, this isn't the first time a animated series has been brought back, but this is really fascinating on how they did it, because a lot of the time, especially when there's a huge gap in time, they'll try to do a modern take on the previous show, even if it's the same continuity, supposedly. A example that just leaps to my mind is the He-Man Revelation show, done for Netflix, produced, I believe, by Kevin Smith. And that was a continuation of the old Filmation He-Man from the 80s. Not a reboot like the She-Ra show, a continuation. And if you go back and watch that, whether you like it or not, I don't care. The animation is really sophisticated, nicely detailed, a lot of movement in it. The acting, the writing is very modern and not at all in the style of the old show. This does something really interesting because it animates and its style looks like the old show, and also its writing is somewhat reminiscent of the old style of the show, but it's done with a modern lens, and they have this wonderful kind of middle ground. We're still kind of steeped in what the show used to be. This is the same universe We're just a little bit more sophisticated in how we're going about it. Because the animation, first off, is gorgeous. I mean, God, compared to the old show, this looks like a big budget animated movie. Uh, there's really nice, beautiful shading. There's a lot of like fluid character work. There's even some shots where it almost feels like a rotoscope. Probably not, but boy, there's some scenes like Jubilee's dancing and the nightclub really does feel very human the way she's moving rather than just some stiff animated character going yeah. And of course I'm reviewing the first two episodes, by the way. So let's basically get essentially Professor X has died, killed by let's see, it's not Senator Kelly, it's Guy Ritchie. And he's in prison. Cyclops is doing his best to lead the X-Men the way he thinks that Professor X would want him to lead it, and he's got a lot of pressure on him. And of course, he's having trouble wrangling all the X-Men to do their jobs, and some of them aren't. It's kind of difficult being the leader, frankly. Wolverine, of course, is on his ass all the time, and he has gotten a lot of attitude towards him because he is suspecting, and rightfully so, that Cyclops and Jean Grey are thinking about ditching and getting out of here and retiring from X-Men stuff and being a family because they have a baby on the way. Cable! And they have a baby on the way, so they want to, take care of it. And maybe get it out of this very dangerous life that they have, which, I mean, is not an unreasonable feeling. So we're seeing him struggle with this, and the first episode deals with the Friends of Humanity leaning way into their racism because they have been picking up the pace on their actions. They're using sophisticated leftover Sentinel merchandise and adapting it and such, and it's coming from someplace. So the first episode deals with kind of trying to figure out where this is coming from, and it's coming from one of their villains, Trask, which leads to a wonderful action sequence at the end of the episode. Spotlighting Storm. Storm gets nice treatment in these episodes, particularly episode 1, where she gets to show off, and it's nice to have the original voice actress back. She looks wonderful. She's nicely like animated. Her redesign's really good, and boy, man, it's just so good. And of course, it ends on the cliffhanger. Oh, by the way, I should mention Sunspot is brought into the action, and Sunspot actually plays the Jubilee role, where he is rescued from the evil racists of the Friends Humanity by the X-Men themselves. By the way, Cyclops, man, this one episode 1, makes up for all the shit that this character got from the comics, but specifically the films and a lot of like X-Men media and Marvel media, where I don't know, just like it feels like 15, 20 years we just felt like shitting on Cyclops for some reason because he's not as awesome as Wolverine, and we want Jean to fuck Wolverine instead of this stiff Cyclops. Is that why? Is that the whole reason why we're really kind of busting on this guy? Oh, that's not cool. That's not right. Oh, so anyway, this episode 1 alone does a lot. Man, the fact that Cyclops shows up and uses his beam to slide around during the fight and uses it to kind of propel himself when he is thrown out of the jet so he can land in the most superhero epic way possible. This episode does a lot of repair work on his reputation. And also, he's very sympathetic. Like, he's doing his best, and it's hard to lead people. And he's like got a lot of shit he's juggling, and at the same time kind of trying to be the guy Professor X not just wanted, but what he thinks Professor X wanted him to be. And of course we got Jean dealing with the impending delivery of her child, and then of course we cut to like episode 2, where we have this cliffhanger where Magneto just shows up and says, "Hey, this school is mine. Ha ha, read and weep. It's and the will I get to take over because my boyfriend left it to me." And we watch the next episode. Fans of Magneto are in for a feast on this episode because he is just in full form. He's got a new costume, which is like the '80s reformed Magneto costume, with the big M and the high elbow gloves and cape, and it just looks great. He has decided that. Well, this is of course what he is proclaiming, that since Xavier is gone, he has lost him. He is going to do his best to lead the X-Men in the way he thinks Xavier would approve of him. Weird. That sounds familiar, doesn't it, Cyclops? But of course, he has such commanding presence that people are just terrified of him. He of course starts doing good and starts helping people, and he seems to be sincere in this. When the government, led by Val Cooper, comes to arrest him because he's Magneto, he gives himself up, but not before he does the most awesome thing, where he turns. He says, "Oh, your guns seem to be programmed to resist my magnetic power, but your helicopters sure aren't." Wow, what a great scene! What a great moment. Speaking of great moments, this show does very effectively quiet moments, and moments where these characters seem like people, even though they'll be stiff, kind of like dramatic dialogue in like superhero fashion form, kind of in the old-fashioned style, like of the Stan Lee and the sometimes of Chris Claremont, the 70s and 80s type of stuff. But it still manages to have very human moments. The conversation between Jean and Storm, where Jean confides into Storm, like, what kind of world am I bringing my baby into? And it's a legitimate question, and Storm really does kind of like honestly, tell her, like, look, there have been times where I've like wondered, what it would be like to just be a person, and while it's tempting, it's not who I am. It's not the life I lead. It's not who I'm proud of, and of course that's foreshadowing something that's coming later. And of course, when Magneto surrenders himself to the UN to be tried for his various crimes, the Friends of Humanity, led by Executioner, who I have not thought about since the 90s. He's like a X-Men villain, very racist, very evil. Very cool costume, though. Very cool look. And I instantly recognized him the second I saw him. I was like, oh my god, the Executioner's back. And Executioner has this fight with Cyclops, and it's... Boy, this sequence where these evil racists attack a government building, boy, that seems familiar. I don't know where they got that inspiration from. It really, and I think they even do say the word insurrection, if I'm not mistaken. There are moments where Executioner says shit to Cyclops where it's like, I have heard these words about any number of minorities or marginalized groups, like gay or transgender or even women, or fill in the blank. I've heard these statements, just this time appropriated for mutants. And, it's an example of how well this metaphor works and how well these writers are doing this. And of course, Cyclops is separated because Jean is giving birth at the moment they're doing this, so Rogue has to run him back to the hospital. Very cool scene where the doctor just like, well, I'm not helping mutant babies. Ugh. So Rogue takes his medical degree out of his brain and uses it and delivers Jean's baby, which at the same time is happening when the attack is going on, because they're not going to just kill Magneto, they're going to kill anybody in the building. And of course, Once Storm is shot and depowered, that's when Magneto just flat out loses it. And he takes the room, mostly the judges and the council and the executioner, he is just instantly defeated. Takes them up into space, and you think he's going to do something terrible to all of them. This is the chance, this is the moment where like Magneto just loses it, and he gives this amazing speech. Absolutely, I'm not even gonna. I didn't write it down, so I can't really verbatim repeat it. I would rather, even if I could, I would rather you listen to the speech. I think it's absolutely wonderful, and the way it speaks to the heart of this issue, juxtaposed with Jean and Scott and Rogue, delivering the baby at the same time he's dealing with this, and it's a wonderful scene because he's like telling them, hey, this happened last week. I'd be killing all of you, but I want you to see this world. And he takes them up near, close to orbit. I want you to see this world we're all living on, and I want you to know I am trying. God, what a wonderful scene. And he's pardoned. They listen to him and go, okay, well, sure, all right, we're gonna do it. And of course, Storm leaves the X-Men because she's depowered and really on the verge of being very depressed. She's going into a bad place, and she leaves. Just then, there's this cool scene where like, Morph is like, hey, look, see, I told you, Storm, yeah, she left, but she's coming right back. Let me open the door, and it's Jean Grey, and she's like, oh no, this terrible thing has happened, while Jean Grey and the baby and Scott are standing right there. So, boy, I guess we're getting into the Madeline Pryor stuff. It does look like we're getting into a story arc, one of Storm's famous story arcs, where she did lose her powers, by the way, and I think we're going to be getting into that. I don't think they're sidelining her on purpose to get her out of the show. I think we're going to be going through, I think that arc is called Life Death, if I'm not mistaken, but I think that's what we're going to be doing, and that's pretty exciting, because that's a pretty cool arc for her, and that's going to give a lot of meat for this character. At least that's what I think we're doing, judging from the first two episodes. And judging from the first two episodes, I am a big fan of this, and if you can't tell, I'm very excited about it. I think this is probably one of the best continuations I've ever seen, because it just nails the tone, but it still does it in a sophisticated modern voice. I mentioned, Beau DeMayo is the showrunner and head writer. He was unfortunately fired within a week or two before this premiered, and they haven't at this date not mentioned why. I hope it's not for anything too terrible, but to be honest, it's kind of sad, because he wrote these first two episodes and they're wonderful work. So good luck to him with future work. I'm sorry that he won't be. A lot of his work will be in season 2, but there's probably not enough of it to really take effect in season 3. So I hope they're able to continue on with such kind of stellar work as these 2 episodes. Because man, I got to tell you, these 2 episodes came out swinging, and I am excited to see the rest of the season, what they do with it. I was someone who was not the biggest X-Men the Animated Series fan, and boy, they got me. This was really, really good. I'm going to give these first 2 episodes 5 out of 5 Ram chips, and I will be discussing the season once it's all finished, and we'll see if it continues on this level or does it drop off. We'll find out. I'll do a full review of the season once it's all over. So I won't be doing this weekly, but we'll be talking about what did you, the viewers at home, think of the first 2 episodes. Let me know in the comments below. You can find me all over the place. I am on Facebook, Tumblr, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, something else. And you can support this channel and Manos Publishing. Just $1 a month. Just $1 a month. You can help me review stuff for you and write stuff for you. Just $1 a month over at Patreon. So I think that's it. You can let me in the comments below. What did you think of these first couple episodes? You liked it as much as me, or different opinions? Let me know. You can click the notification bell and comment. Because by the way, if you do this stuff, that algorithm stuff helps me. So you don't even have to give anything to my Patreon if you just click this stuff, and it magically helps me because of internet. All right, I think I've talked out, so I'm going to get going, and I was saying push the button, Lindsay, with my mind.